Well, howdy folks. Now, I got a question that's been burning hotter than a suppressor after a mag dump. Is Uncle Sam's shiny new XM7 rifle the next great American war machine? Or did we just spend billions on military equivalent of a participation trophy? See, the Army's been telling us this thing is a future of infantry warfare. More power, better range, and fancy computer optics that'll turn every grunt into Annie Oakley. But here's the thing, the troops who actually have to carry this beast into battle, well, they're singing a different tune entirely. What I found will either make you proud of American innovation or madder than a wet hen at a church social. Because folks, when it comes to the XM7, there's a whole lot more to this story than what's making it into press releases. Now, before we dive into this rabbit hole deeper than a prairie dog's burrow, let me paint you a picture of what we're dealing with here. The XM7, or as it's now officially called the M7, represents the biggest change to American infantry weapons in over 60 years. We're talking about replacing the M4 carbine, a rifle that's been putting holes in bad guys since the Clinton administration. This ain't just about swapping out one gun for another, folks. This is about fundamentally changing how American soldiers fight. The Army dropped over $10 billion on this program. That's a billion with a B, betting that bigger bullets and fancy optics would give our boys the edge in future conflicts. So let's start with what we're actually looking at here. The M7, made by Sig Sauer, chambers a new 6.8 by 51 millimeter cartridge, what civilians know as .277 Fury. Now, this ain't your granddaddy's 30-06, but it's not trying to be. The Army wanted something that could punch through modern body armor at distances that would make a .556 round wave a white flag. The rifle itself weighs in at a hefty 9.58 pounds, unloaded. For comparison, that M4 your cousin carried in Afghanistan, about 6.5 pounds. Add in the mandatory suppressor and that fancy XM157 optic with its built-in ballistic computer, and now you're looking at a system that tips the scales at over 13 pounds. That's heavier than some World War II battle rifles, and those boys were built like brick outhouses. Speaking of that optic, it's like something out of a sci-fi movie. The XM157 automatically calculates bullet drop, has variable magnification from 1x to 8x, and supposedly turns every soldier into a precision marksman. That sounds pretty good on paper, don't it? Well, hold your hats, because we're going to get to what the troops actually think about this fancy technology. But for now, let's talk about what this rifle is actually spitting out. The 6.8 by 51 millimeter round operates at pressures that would make a steam engine jealous. We're talking about 80,000 psi. It's like having the pressure of being 180 feet underwater contained in a brass case smaller than your thumb. The high pressure approach allows the round to achieve muzzle velocities over 3,000 feet per second from a relatively short 13-inch barrel. The result? A bullet that can punch through level 4 body armor like tissue paper and maintain lethal energy out to 600 meters and beyond. The Army developed two types of ammunition, general purpose round for training and a special purpose round that's still classified. Word on the street is that the special purpose round uses some space-age materials that make it even more effective against hard targets. $15 per round for the fancy stuff, it better be effective, because that's more expensive than most people's lunch. But here's where our story takes a turn sharper than a mountain switchback. Because while engineers and generals were patting themselves on the back for creating this technological marvel, the folks who actually have to use it started raising their hands with some concerns. First up, we're going to talk about the weight problem. Though I have carried my share of heavy rifles through rough country, I can tell you that every ounce matters when you're roughing it for miles. The soldiers testing this system found themselves carrying 30% more weight in their basic load compared to the M4 system. But that is just the beginning. Instead of carrying 210 rounds of 5.56 and 7 magazines, they're now carrying 140 rounds of 6.8 in 7 20-round magazines. That's 70 fewer rounds for 30% more weight. Like trading your pickup truck for a sports car that gets worse gas mileage and can't haul as much. One soldier from the 101st Airborne put it this way: "After a day of training with this thing, my arms felt like I'd been wrestling a bear, and not a friendly bear, an angry one with commitment issues." Now here's where things get spicy. Multiple soldiers reported reliability issues that make a gun owner's blood run cold. We're talking failure to extract, failure to eject, and in some cases, complete malfunctions even with properly cleaned weapons. An anonymous soldier posted online, "I've never seen a weapon that's had so many malfunctions." The high-pressure ammunition appears to be causing accelerated wear on internal components. Barrels are showing rifling degradation after just 2,000 rounds, always in the same spot, 4 inches from the muzzle. For a military rifle that's supposed to last through multiple deployments, that's about as reassuring as a chocolate teapot. And with every M7 comes a suppressor, which sounds pretty cool until you realize the problems it creates. During night operations, the suppressor glows red hot after just a few magazines, washing out night vision equipment, like trying to clear a building when your night vision's useless just because your own rifle's glowing like a Christmas ornament. That's bad. One soldier described it as trying to be stealthy while carrying a road flare. Not exactly what you want when your life depends on staying hidden, yeah? But the problems go deeper than just hardware issues. The Army has spent decades developing tactics around the M4's capabilities and limitations. Suddenly switching to a completely different weapon system is like asking a NASCAR driver to race a Formula One car. Yeah, they're both fast, but everything else is different. During live fire exercises, units found themselves running out of ammo quick. The reduced magazine capacity meant frequent reloads, and heavier ammunition meant soldiers couldn't carry as much. In one exercise with 101st Airborne, a platoon providing suppressive fire was nearly out of ammunition after just 15 minutes of contact. The platoon sergeant had to start pulling magazines from medics, radio operators, and anyone else not on the firing line. As you can imagine, in a real combat situation, that's the kind of logistics nightmare that gets people killed. The rifle's controls, while technically ambidextrous, have created their own set of problems. The charging handle's been breaking during training, and the ambidextrous magazine release has been accidentally activated when soldiers sling their rifles, dropping magazines into the dirt. One particularly concerning issue involves the side charging handle. If a soldier uses it and then operates the bolt release with their support hand, the charging handle can gouge their hand badly enough to require medical attention. As one soldier put it, "It's a self-correcting mistake, but the correction involves blood and a trip to the medic." Now, before y'all think I'm just here to bash on American innovation, let's hear what the other side has to say. Sig Sauer and the Army leadership aren't taking these criticisms lying down. Sig Sauer's senior director, Jason St. John, argues that many of the criticisms come from incomplete information. He points out that the rifle's been tested with over 1 million rounds fired and barrel life exceeding 10,000 rounds, well above Army requirements. Regarding the pressure concerns, SIG states the rifle operates at 77,000 psi, not 80, and has been proof tested up to 125,000 psi with no safety issues. They argue that the weapon system represents a significant leap forward in infantry capabilities. The Army maintains that the weapon passed all operational assessments and that soldier feedback has been overwhelmingly positive in official channels. They point to the Secretary of the Army's guiding principle: yesterday's weapons will not win tomorrow's wars. Army officials argue that the increased weight and reduced ammunition capacity are acceptable trade-offs for the dramatically increased lethality and range. They believe that future conflicts will require engaging enemies at longer distances, where the M7's capabilities shine. You know, this whole situation reminds me of another time the Army tried to revolutionize infantry weapons. Back in the 1950s, they adopted the M14 rifle, convinced that a powerful .308 battle rifle was the future of warfare. Sound familiar? The M14 was heavy, had significant recoil, and was difficult to control in happy mode. Gotta say it this way because good old YouTube ad-friendly guidelines. It served as a primary infantry rifle for exactly 7 years before being replaced by the M16. The parallels are striking. Powerful cartridge, a heavy rifle, and initial resistance from troops who had to use it. But here's the thing about military procurement: sometimes the Army gets it right, and sometimes they don't. The M16 had its own teeth and problems during Vietnam, with soldiers writing home, begging their families to contact Congress about the rifle's reliability issues. Yet after the problems were fixed, it became one of the most successful military rifles in history. The ultimate test of any military weapon is not what happens on a test range or a PowerPoint presentation. It's what happens when young Americans are carrying it into harm's way, betting their lives on its reliability. Now, interestingly, Ukrainian forces who've experience with both Western and Eastern weapons have provided some perspective. They report that most infantry engagements still occur at distances well under 300 meters, where the M7's long-range advantages are less relevant. They also noted that the M4's 5.56 black-tip ammo easily penetrates Russian body armor, raising questions about whether the increased power of the 6.8 round is even necessary against current threats. However, Army planners ain't just thinking about current conflicts, they're preparing for potential future conflicts with countries like China, where engagement distances might be longer and enemy body armors more advanced. The question becomes, are we preparing for the last war or the next one? It's a gamble that could cost billions and potentially affects the lives of thousands of American service members. So is the XM7 a hit or miss for the U.S. military? Well, from a technological standpoint, the M7 represents genuine innovation. It is more powerful, got more accuracy at long range, and it comes with integrated systems that previous generations of infantry could only dream about. That engineering is impressive and the capabilities are very real, but from a practical standpoint, the weapon system faces significant challenges. That weight penalty affects soldier mobility and endurance. The reduced ammunition capacity creates tactical limitations. And reliability concerns, if not addressed, could prove dangerous in combat, not to the bad guys. So here's what I think is really happening. The Army is betting that future warfare will look different from recent conflicts. They're prepared for fights where American infantry might face better equipped enemies at longer ranges. And in that scenario, the M7's advantages could be pretty decisive. But they're also asking American soldiers to accept significant trade-offs in weight, ammunition capacity, and potentially reliability for capabilities that may or may not be needed in actual combat. The truth is, we don't know if this gamble will pay off until American soldiers are using these rifles in actual combat. By then, it might be too late to change course if we got it wrong. So what concerns me isn't the technical specifications or even the soldier complaints, it's the pattern of dismissing negative feedback that we've seen before, especially from good old SIG. When soldiers raise legitimate concerns about their equipment, those concerns deserve serious consideration and not bureaucratic dismissal. The M7 might turn out to be the greatest infantry rifle ever made, or it might join the M14 in the seemed like a good idea at the time category. Only time and unfortunately combat will tell. What I do know is this: American soldiers deserve equipment that works when their lives depend on it. They deserve weapons that are reliable, practical, and suited to the missions they're asked to perform. Whether the M7 meets those standards remains to be seen. But I want to hear from you guys. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're currently serving or you recently served, give us your perspective, because it is especially valuable. Though, I understand if you can't share everything publicly. This whole situation reminds me of another controversial military adoption that changed everything, and that is the transition from the 1911 to the Beretta M9. Speaking of which, if you want to hear the full story on how politics, procurement, and performance collided in that decision, check out this video right here where I break down the great pistol controversy that had Congress holding hearings and soldiers taking sides. Until next time, keep your powder dry, your groups tight, and remember, the best weapon is the one that works when you need it most. Y'all come back now, you hear?